Hello, hello.
Hello.
Hey.
Hi. Hey, everybody. Sorry for the delay here. Appreciate everyone's taking some time to join us today. We're really excited because, unlike a lot of the webinars that we've done over the past couple of years, we're excited to have the participation of both Microsoft as well as one of Cireson's longtime customers, Kodak Alaris. And they're going to be going over some of the great things involving asset management life cycles that they've done with the System Center products as well as the Cireson platform. So just some quick level setting on who we are. My name is Joel Doss. I see a lot of familiar names in the access today. I'm the director of sales. I've been with Cireson for about 10 years. My role extends to, helping customers evaluate Cireson products, bring those on board. I'm also closely involved with matters around customer success and, obviously participating in webinars and sessions like this one. Also have Adam Dezaki with our product group. Adam, I don't know if you want to say a couple of quick words about yourself.
Yeah, sure. My name is Adam Dezaki. I'm the director of product here at Cireson. I've been here for I think four-ish years now, and I'm responsible for our roadmap and the software that we develop here at Cireson, and a lot of that prioritization. And also get to talk to the Bryans and also several other customers. So yeah, that's me.
All right. We also have Bryan Winter with Kodak Alaris and Bryan McCartney, pair of Bryans today. We wanted to say a few words about Cireson on System Center 2025. Aakash is scheduled to go over a few key updates around the System Center stack from his side. And then, as I said before, I think a lion's share of this session will be driven on the Kodak side. So Adam, did you want to make any comments about, Cireson on System Center 2025? We'll start there.
Cireson on System Center 2025. So let's be clear. Cireson apps are fully compatible with Service Manager 2025. We've gotten several releases out this year across the Cireson portal, alongside updates to our console apps, ensuring continued stability across things like delay activity, PowerShell activity, cloud activity, and a few others. And has been the case. All right, these updates are made possible not just by the folks here at Cireson, but of course all of our customers that we get to interact with on a regular basis, and that I get to reach out to and talk to. And again, much like Kodak. Now, related to that, I do want to add just a bit of an update on just Service Manager development in general for us, right? So related to that, we have already begun and entered testing into our next round of updates for the Cireson portal, and we're looking to release that in about a month's time or so. And I'm also happy to share that we've got a few more updates planned around PowerShell activity, advanced request offering, and our cloud connector, which offers a simplified and straightforward set of APIs for integrating really just any systems within your environment with Service Manager, again, through the Cireson portal. All right, so with that said, let me pass it over to Aakash, who is the product manager at Microsoft, to discuss System Center 2025.
Thank you, Adam. Hey, everyone. Thanks for having me, Cireson team. It's always nice to see how Cireson has complemented System Center products, specifically Service Manager, for all their customers, right? So with today's conversation, I want to talk about what's new in System Center, specifically 2025. Just before we get into that, I want to introduce myself. I'm Aakash from Microsoft, working in the engineering team of System Center. I'm proud to say that we've released System Center 2025 a month ago in November. Of course, all the products that is there on the slide here are part of the suite. Operations Manager, Orchestrator, Virtual Machine Manager, DPM, and of course Service Manager, right? I'll talk about what is there in System Center 2025, but at the end of the day, I just want to emphasize on the fact that System Center, we continue to invest in System Center and its enhancements in terms of security, in terms of supporting the latest Windows Server, with which it's compatible with, and which business System Center is mainly concentrated on. And of course, uh, all those products will undergo updates and hot fixes like we have always been. I just want to talk about what is in support and what is not. So with the release of System Center 2025, which happened in November 2024, that is the latest LTSC release version, sorry. And we did the preview a few months ago, but again it was it was focused on a very small cohort. And outside of that, we also have 2022 version, which is currently in support and has been in mainstream cycle for a couple of years or more. And we released UR2 last year, November 2023, and we plan to release UR3 next year as well in the early part of the year, Q1. And that said, the previous versions, 2019, is out of mainstream support. Any security enhancements or any security updates it will get, but nothing that will unblock, or there's no bug fix per se in 2019. Having said that, we will continue to release System Center products as and when we see Windows Server releasing with its new version, right? That's the soft commitment that we have, and we want to adhere to it. Having said that, I want to jump into what's there in System Center 2025. Again, at the end of the day, System Center helps you seamlessly manage your data center, in whatever form it may be, right? It could be a local, it could be a colo, or it could be a cloud data center. So System Center is fit for all. That said, what are some of the uh, main pillars of Systems Center 2025? Is one is, of course, the security aspect. We really want to provide a strength in security for your infrastructure, manage any type of data center, as we talked about, heterogeneous and any kind of workloads. And of course, as your infrastructure goes, it modernizes. We want to support that, right? As in how if you move to Windows Server 2025, we want to support it. If you want to go hybrid, we want to support it, and we'll talk about that in a minute, right? So from the strengthened infrastructure security standpoint, right, uh, there has been the legacy NTLM authentication, which we want to reduce its use as much as possible. Windows Server 2025 team has taken a stand to kind of remove the usage of NTLM completely by, let's say, next version of Windows Server. But I know it's a bit of a drastic and a huge change that you may have to undergo for your existing applications, but we want to reduce the NTLM usage as much as possible, and the same thing for CRED SSP, right, which is used for communications, right? And in Virtual Machine Manager, the Gen 2 VMs, any machine that you create through VMM, the Gen 2 VMs are created by default, which is more secure, right? And of course, we have added support for TLS 1.3 in VMM and DPM. We will add 1.3 support for SCOM and SM soon, right? And specifically in Data Protection Manager, we've added the support for storing your passphrase in Azure Key Vault, right? So when you're taking a backup, you want to secure the backup, then you can store the passphrase in Azure Key Vault instead of locally storing and compromising on the security. How are we adapting to heterogeneous infrastructure and workloads? We are enabling support for the latest version of Windows Server 2025, multiple latest versions of Linux workloads, and of course the Azure local, right, which was previously called Azure Stack HCI, right, and along with it VMware and Hyper-V, right. We've seen a huge recent interest in VMware, and we want to support as much as possible for that version, for all the versions of VMware, right. And lastly, we want to support the infrastructure modernization. Whatever versions you upgrade, we want to help ensure their existing System Center as well as Systems 2025 is able to monitor it, is able to install on it, and is able to manage it, right? Uh, we want to help with cloud migrations. At the end of the day, there are many features which are there in 2025 as well as 2022, which will allow you to, manage your cloud infrastructure. Let's say we had the M365 management pack before. You also have a way to generate business case through SCOM operations console, right? So those are some of the things which will aid your cloud migrations. And as I mentioned, hybrid management via Arc, hybrid migrations or hybrid management, sorry, is something that we have added support through Arc, Arc for SCVMM, or Arc in SCOM managed instance helps you manage your hybrid infrastructure, right? And of course, the Windows Server 2025 has multiple Arc features, and it complements with Arc SCVMM, such as migration from VMware to Hyper-V, VMware to HCI, as well as uh, mm, I would say what else? Arc brings in Azure services as well to your Windows servers and such as Update Manager and SCOM-MI. So those are some things that is available. And also we have introduced hot patching through Arc. So some of those are available for System Center managed servers as well. And as I mentioned, VMware to Windows Server or Azure Stack HCI is also supported through Arc for SCVMM. So these are some of the ways that we want to enable support through System Center 2025, and at the end of the day, help you manage your best-in-class, provide your best-in-class data center management. Right. Without talking much on System Center 2025, I want to hand it over to the Kodak team, who have set up a hardware asset management using Service Manager and Cireson's multiple products. Thank you.
Once again, my name is Bryan McCartney, and I'm joined, of course, today by Bryan Winner. He's my good friend and colleague. We've both been employees of Kodak Alaris since the inception of the company back in 2012. We were with the Eastman Kodak Company before that, and we both have had the privilege of being able to install and design and manage both the System Center suite of products as well as the Cireson suite of products. So that's just a little bit of introduction about us, and of course I'll get more into it as we go through the slides. Let me see, the next slide is just a little bit about the agenda that we'll go through today. Some introduction about the company, the hardware asset lifecycle management issues that we faced, and then we'll talk about the improvements that we made with validation and notification, data consolidation and dashboards, automating a lot of manual tasks, and then how we measure success. And of course, at the end with Joel and Adam, we'll answer any questions that you may have. A little bit of background about our company. Like I'd mentioned earlier, we were formed back in 2013 from the divestiture of the Eastman Kodak Company. We have two divisions, Alaris and Kodak Moments, and we have roughly 1,500 people, employees that are, and contractors, I guess, worldwide. The Alaris division is made up of hardware and software for digital imaging. They also have information management solutions. And then the Kodak Moments division has retail and like the photo printing kiosks and sales and marketing of traditional film. And the reason I want to spend a little bit of time on this slide is just so everybody understands the unique, maybe it's not unique, but the challenges that we face from a hardware asset management perspective. With 1,500 employees, we have, roughly an average turnover of, 4 to 5% per year. And that equates to about 3 or 4 new hires every week and 3 to 4, leavers every week. So people that leave the company or retire. And so there's a lot of work requests that go into the system to, both deploy new workstations and retrieve the old workstations from the leavers. And that leads to a bigger problem because we are a global company. It's not like we're just in one building. We have users across the world, and we have not only just a 1-to-1, computer to user ratio. We have, 2 manufacturing locations that have several shared workstations and workstations that monitor, processes and production. And, we have a help desk that's located in Durham, North Carolina, and they have almost 24/7 by 365 help desk, but they're closed, I think, just 5 hours during every day. But we do have regional IT staff so that if there's ever anything that's production critical, right, it can be taken up by one of the regional IT folks. Okay. Next slide kind of talks about our initial asset management environment. We've used, like Adam had said before, we have used Active Directory, Service Center, System Center Configuration Manager, also Intune in a hybrid environment, Orchestrator, Service Manager, and the Cireson Asset Management application since its inception. And one of the things that we notice is that these connectors between each of these products kind of only flow one way, right? So in Active Directory, if there's a new device that's discovered in Active Directory, it'll be picked up by Configuration Manager, and then of course, the computer record will be created in Service Manager, and from that, the hardware asset gets created. So it's a really nice flow of automation that takes place just with the connectors and configuring the connectors. Now, we get to the problem, right? Over time, our information, our hardware asset data became really unreliable and inaccurate. So you can see back in 2013, we had, 1,997 Active Directory computers. We had the same amount of computers in Configuration Manager, the same amount of computers in Service Manager, and we had 1,997 hardware assets, which was perfect. Over time, you can see the huge difference that happened, and that it really, how do I want to say this? There were really 3 things that made this stand out, right? The first, of course, is if you ever had an audit. We had audits, and they would say, how many computers do you have in your company? And of course, at the beginning, it was a lot easier to answer the questions, but at the end, we'd say somewhere between 2,000 and 4,000. And that didn't go over very well. Of course, in addition to that, whenever we did our PC refresh budget, we were way over the budget that was necessary. And then in 2015, we were over even further. We thought we had, 4,000 computers, maybe 10% of those needed to be refreshed when they really didn't. So our management said, let's figure out what's going on, right? And it wasn't like it snuck up on us and we didn't know that our hardware asset data was inaccurate along the way. But the problem that we found was that just making procedures and trying to communicate information to all of our IT folks worldwide was difficult at best. So we did this root cause analysis to find out why we had inaccurate hardware information. And the bottom line was that we had too many manual processes, workstation replacements, new hires, lost or stolen devices, workstation returns, all of those things were manual processes. So if somebody, let's say, broke a computer, right, their computer broke, we had to replace it, they would come into the depot and they would get a replacement and they'd be off on their way. And, the IT person that was in charge of, swapping out that computer might forget to record the information. And so it slowly, over time, just became, like I showed earlier, really inaccurate. Another problem we had is that we didn't really have any process for doing a physical asset inventory. So we really never even verified how much we had, how many devices that we had at that point. So we were able to create hardware assets, but we weren't able to manage the hardware asset life cycles at all. So we decided to get busy and make some improvements. How do we improve our data quality? Basically, there were 3 pillars of success that we decided that we had to have to get accurate information. The first was to have data consolidation and dashboards so that we could, at any time, we could actually see where we're at, right, with hardware assets, which devices do we have in the environment, and we needed to have a way to report critical information. The second pillar was to automate all those manual tasks that I showed earlier. If we didn't have the automation, it leaves yourself open to simply overlooking, the recording of the hardware asset changes. And then lastly, if anything does slip through the cracks, we need to have some validation and a way to notify, the custodians of these devices that there's an issue. Okay. So the first thing that we did was we consolidated the hardware asset view in the portal, and we extended the hardware class for computer use. Like I'd mentioned earlier, we have several uses for computers. It's not just a one-to-one. Each user has a primary computer. There's several different uses, and so we thought that was critical to capture. We also changed the owned by field to the custodian of the device. And that's primarily because in our manufacturing areas, you may have, 15 computers that are used to run a process, but they're not really owned by the primary user of those devices. They might be owned by the supervisor of the area. So that was another change that we made. After we did that, the first thing that we had to do was to figure out where we were exactly, right? And being such a diverse company with, people in so many different locations, it was difficult, just to walk through a building, right? We couldn't just walk through one building from, the left to the right and count all the computers. We have computers globally. And we have a lot of our workforce that works remotely. So it was very difficult to even start doing an asset inventory. So what we did is we created a PowerShell script that loops through all of the custodians and finds all of their devices. And then it sends this email notification out over here on the right. And it shows, like, for this particular user, they were the custodian for 3 different devices. And we just asked them to say, is this correct or not? And of course, this one in particular, this person wrote back and said, oh, I turned in my D630 laptop years ago. I don't have that anymore. And so our first year of doing this inventory, we were only 19.5% accurate. We were way off, and we knew we were but we just got the validation from doing this. And as we continued on a yearly basis, we continued to improve until back in 2021, we were able to start doing it on a semi-annual basis because our information became, highly accurate. The hardware asset dashboard that we created is through Power BI, and it has 51 data points from 10 different data sources. And what it shows are the things that we think are important. At this particular point, we wanted to see if workstations had these two pieces of software installed. It's kind of hard to see here, but we wanted to see if they had them. And so, at any point, we can change and update what's important to the business dashboard. We also created a dashboard that was to be recovered. So once a computer or once a user leaves the company, right, their workstation, through some automation that Bryan will talk about in a minute, this automation changes the status of the hardware asset from deployed to be recovered. And if the device stays in this to be recovered status for too long, it'll start to age and kind of move up on the list here. And so these are the ones that our IT staff takes, tries to resolve as soon as possible, because we're not getting, these devices back into our depots quick enough. We also created a discrepancy report that is built on PowerShell. What it does is it goes through all of our hardware assets and examines the integrity of the hardware asset information. For example, this is a little bit older of a screenshot, but you can see down here at the bottom, this device is enabled in Active Directory, and it doesn't have a configuration manager client, and it hadn't been online for a long time. So this information gets sent to all of our IT folks, and they're able to go out and fix the issue. Okay, I'll turn it over to Bryan Winter now, and he can talk about all of the automation and workflow improvements that we've done.
All right. Thank you, Bryan. Awesome. Okay, so automation and workflow improvements. As we see, if you leave it up to manual processes, errors tend to creep into our database. So how do we correct that? Well, the first thing we notice is that when we examine our process, we see a lot of repeating activities. We have deployments where our asset goes from our depot out to remote locations. And there we're updating the status from in stock to deployed, of course. We're assigning a custodian. We are setting that computer use, primary, secondary lab, et cetera, and we're setting that location to wherever it's going to be, Hong Kong, Germany, wherever. Conversely, we have a return activity where it's coming back into the depot. It's going from deployed to in stock. The custodian is getting cleared out. The computer use is cleared out. The location is now back to the depot. All right. So we have our various service requests. We have, as mentioned before, our lost, stolen, new hire, asset replacement, or asset return. And as you can see here, we have our deploy activity in green and our return activity in red. And it's the same over and over and over again. So we're consistent and it's automated, and these fields are now being updated instead of being manually updated. It's being updated through runbooks. In addition to that, we have bulk operations where we have spreadsheets with employee IDs where in some cases we're doing workstation refreshes. A department has a bunch of old workstations that they're getting brand new ones. Or as Bryan mentioned before, we have, 3 to 5 people leaving the company each week. So we drop a spreadsheet into a folder, and you can kind of see that here. Let me actually get a pointer. Yep, we got a cursor here. And so we drop that spreadsheet into a folder, and we have a run book that's watching that folder looking for a spreadsheet. It will then loop through those IDs, creating a service request for each employee. Depending on what type of activity we're looking for. In this case, it's a workstation refresh. It will then create a ticket for each one of those employees, and you'll see it creates a nice advanced workflow with activities. Half a dozen, it doesn't matter how many, but they're all the same. Everybody gets their ticket, and away we go. Consistency. All right. Next. Now, some tickets hang out for days, weeks at a time. People forget that they have things that they need to do, like approve sorry, let me back up. We don't want to educate the entire staff of a couple thousand people that how to operate the portal. We could, but that's we feel there's an easier way. So we came up with a series of emails that will specify what they need to do, be it approve a request, sign off, move a file, et cetera, et cetera. So they have a manual activity. We have a review activity, and with a click of a button, they can then sign off on that activity. They don't have to go into the portal. They can handle it right through email. Now, certain run books, such as the return activities, or deploy activities, need certain configuration items in order for it to complete properly. So you need, under deploy activity, computer use, custodian, location, and what workstation you're working on. If you are missing one of those pieces of information, the run book's going to fail. So before it tries to do its work, it'll check presence of those pieces of information in the workflow. If it's missing a piece of information, it will send out an email notification to the activity implementer and say, hey, you're missing something. So, and then it will fail and give instructions. And so it will fail gracefully, notify the person what they need to do, go ahead and tell them to cycle back once they have the missing information, restart the workflow again, and then we'll reprocess the workflow so that all the information is present and the database will get updated properly. and the service request will complete. Now, some tickets will sit out for weeks, maybe months, without any action being taken. So we have watchdog run books that will check the age of active tickets. And after a period of so long, they will send out reminder emails that these people need to take action so that these service requests can complete. And they will give detailed instructions on what they need to do. If they continue to ignore these notifications, these reminders, then the notifications will then escalate and will notify their supervisor so that and then we'll continue to escalate and let their supervisor know that action needs to be taken on these tickets so that we don't have stale service requests sitting out there forever and ever and ever. So we have all these processes, these automated processes in place. And so let's measure our success. We have that manual inventory, checking our database. And Bryan showed in 2016, 19.5%. By 5 years later, 2023, well, no, sorry, that's 7 years later, we are at 99.9%. You can see that our processes work. We were able to deliver and recover our assets and meet our SLAs significantly with reduced staff. So our conclusion was we went from all manual processes and sometimes with no process at all to automation, process validation, dashboard views, reminders, and now we have fully integrated hardware asset life cycle processes, greater efficiency, lower cost, fewer errors, and increased productivity using Service Manager 2019, Cireson hardware asset management software, and Power BI. Thank you. I'll pass it over to Adam and Joel.
All right. Well, Bryan and Bryan, I mean, we knew you've been doing great work with the Cireson platform and the System Center stack, but it's awesome to see it outlined with so many specifics. That was a really great presentation. We know a lot of effort went into that. We appreciate that. In terms of any questions that anyone might have, given that this is a little bit different than some of the sessions we normally do, we thought it'd probably be best if we invite any questions that you have to be sent to team at Cireson. Most of our customers know that, there's a few of us on our side that are in front of that. So if you have any questions about, general questions, but especially around what Kodak presented, feel free to direct those to us and we'll loop the Bryans in accordingly, so to speak, or questions more specific to Microsoft. We'll make sure that, that we get your questions addressed. So that's about all from my side. Appreciate everyone's time this morning or afternoon, depending on where you are. We're going to go ahead and wrap up.